Welcome back, all my fight fans. Today, we're going to be breaking down UFC 309. And man, what a fight card. I tell you guys all the time, you can't judge a fight card until it happens. This is a perfect example of that. And I think those gloves did play a factor. I'm not 100% certain, obviously, but hey, the night kicked off with those early prelims and those prelims with quite a few finishes. So maybe the gloves were an issue. I don't know, but what an amazing night of fights. I can't wait to break all this down for you guys today. I'm going to be going through the early prelims and the prelims a little bit quicker, and then I'll spend some more time on that main card and especially talking about the main event and the co-main event because, wow, those were spectacular fights. I can't wait to talk about them today. But kicking off the fight card, we had Eduarda Moura versus Veronica Hardy. Now, I was cheering for Veronica Hardy going into this. She is the wife of Dan Hardy, so it was pretty cool to see Dan Hardy in her corner, kind of coaching her through the fight. But despite having the punching speed advantage and maybe even the cleaner striking, Hardy wasn't able to get it done. She was just getting outlanded. The bigger shots were coming from Moura. Moura was better on the ground, and just in close, it was just not even the same thing. When they were on the outside and Hardy had some distance, she was doing well, but she just didn't have quite enough volume, didn't quite have enough power there to keep Moura off of her. And yeah, tough loss for Hardy, but great win for Moura. Can't wait to see what she does next in the division. Then we had a welterweight bout between Oban Elliott and Basil Hafez. Now, going into this one, I had picked Oban Elliott to win. He looks like a very clean, very technical striker at welterweight. I believe he's like 17-2, so he has a phenomenal record. And that 170 division is getting pretty stacked, especially with Colby Covington fighting Buckley coming up, Ian Gary versus Rachmanov. Somebody's O has to go. That'll be a really fun fight. I'll break those fights down in more detail when we get closer to those events. But man, welterweight's looking hot right now. And Oban Elliott was piecing up Hafez for the first two rounds, just keeping him at distance, more technical with his striking. And then in that third round, he caught him with that straight down the middle and knocked Hafez out, which sucked, man, because before the fight, they were giving a little bit of backstory on Hafez, and they were saying how, he lost his mom to breast cancer when he was like 19, and then his dad, like 2 years later, passed away to lung cancer. And I just felt so bad for the guy. I'm like, damn, I'm almost rooting for him to win now. And then, of course, Oban Elliott gets it done with the beautiful knockout in round 3. So great performance for him. I can't wait to see what he does next at 170. Then we had Ramiz Brahimajez versus, I can't say his name, versus Mickey Gall, another welterweight bout. This was probably Mickey Gall's last fight. I don't think we're going to be seeing him in there anytime soon after this. He's now 7-7, and yeah, just getting knocked out in the first round like that, I don't think the UFC is the right spot for him. Now, he might go into coaching now. I know he has a little bit of interest in that, but maybe 5-10 years ago, the UFC was Mickey Gall's speed, but the sport grows so fast, it progresses so quickly, and I don't think Mickey Gall's cut out for the UFC anymore. So they should probably cut him. And Ramiz, what a performance, getting a knockout in the first round against, I don't know if you'd call Mickey Gall a UFC veteran, but maybe you can extend that term to him. Fantastic performance, though. I can't wait to see what he does next in that division. Then we had Marcin Tybura versus Janota Diniz. And man, I was not expecting this. I thought with Diniz having, I believe his record was like 8-0. He was going to fight Derek Lewis. He had all these knockouts on his resume. He was looking, I believe he's a former Glory kickboxing champion. He was looking like the next big thing at heavyweight. And then Marcin Tybura, the wily vet, gets him down to the ground in the first round after taking some pretty big punches. He gets him to the ground, dominates him. And then in the second round, we see a little bit more domination on the ground. But in the last 30 seconds of the round, Tybura, man, those elbows. I have not seen vicious elbows like that in a long time. We saw some pretty vicious elbows later in the night, but man, Tybura cut that guy open. He cut him open on his nose and both of his eyelids in like 15 seconds. It was gruesome, and the blood was just gushing from his face. It looked like a horror movie. It was awesome. I love watching stuff like that. One of my favorite fights of all time. This is a very underrated fight. You guys can go search it up. It's David Heath versus Babalu. and it's one of the bloodiest fights in UFC history. And it was similar to this one, just getting cut up on the ground with elbows. David Heath was in a much, much bigger pool of blood in that fight, but man, that was cool to see from Tybura. I'm really, really impressed with that performance. I hope he gets a big fight after this. Then we had David Obama. Nah, I'm just kidding. David Onama versus Roberto Romero. And this guy who stepped in on short notice, man, he put a hell of a fight on David. This was probably fight of the night for me. Now, there was one fight. You know, the co-main event was pretty damn good as well. It's hard to argue this fight over that fight, but this fight was still fantastic. I hope these guys got paid for this one because they were slinging leather for the whole 15 minutes. It was phenomenal. This was the first fight besides the first fight of the night that actually went to a decision, but man, it could have been stopped at any point. I mean, these guys were throwing huge punches at each other. I was very surprised both of them were standing on their feet at the end of the fight, but yeah, fantastic performance by David, stepping up short notice, going up a weight division, weighing at 155 last minute there, and fighting a guy on short notice like that and putting on that kind of performance. I'm really excited to see what he does in the UFC. And then we had Jim Miller versus Damon Jackson, the battle of the wily vets. And man, going into this fight, I thought, Jim Miller being 41, Damon Jackson being 36, I'm going to pick Jackson for this. And I told my cousin to place a bet on it. And I immediately regretted that. I should never bet against Jim Miller. He's a phenomenal fighter. He's been fighting for like 35 years now? Not really, but yeah, he's been fighting in the UFC forever. I think he has the most fights in the UFC, and he's tied for the second most wins. He's up there, second most finishes or something. Jim Miller is just a tremendous fighter, man. One of the GOATs. I know he never won a belt. I know he doesn't have that championship pedigree, but he's still up there as one of the GOATs. And getting a guillotine like that in the first round, snatching that up as quickly as he did, he put it on perfectly, and there was no getting out of it. As soon as he put that choke on, I told my cousin, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. You placed the bet wrong tonight. Whoops. Yeah, that's definitely getting finished. And yeah, Damon Jackson tapped out in round 1. And then we had a phenomenal bout between Marcus McGee and Jonathan Martinez. This was a really fun fight as well. McGee, man, that guy's got a lot of power on him. He's so technical, and he has so much strength in every single strike that he throws. He's going to be a problem in this division. But Jonathan Martinez, man, he doesn't give up. He does not give up. I think he dropped the first 2 rounds, but that third round, he definitely won that one. He came really, really close to ending the night for McGee with those leg kicks at the end of the third round. My God, I was limping around my house just thinking about them. Those were some deadly leg kicks. And Martinez, man, that's like the last fighter you want to fight as an MMA fighter. I think most MMA fighters would rather be under Khabib or John Jones than being kicked in the leg over and over again by like a Martinez or a Pereira. It's a horrible feeling, but McGee got it done. He won those first 2 rounds, and he fought with a lot of grit and determination in the third. And yeah, he sneaked out the win there. Fantastic fight. I would love to see it ran back, maybe in a 5-round main event for a fight night sometime in the future. I feel like these guys should be matched up again because that was a tremendous fight. Then we get on to the main card, and the main card came a little bit quicker, I guess. I don't know. The Chris Weidman and Eric Anders fight dropped out like last minute, which really sucks. I was looking forward to that one. I wanted to talk about it, but yeah, we get into the main card, and we had Mauricio Rufy versus James Lontop. I don't know how to say his name, but the Peruvian guy. Man, does he have a chin. I was telling my cousin again, I'm like, if there's one fight that I can call tonight, I think it's going to be this one. I think it's going to be Rufy, round 1 KO. He's got like 10 wins by knockout. All of his wins have come by knockout, and 7 of them have been in the first round. I think if there's one safe bet, it might be Rufy by knockout. But I overlooked the Peruvians, man. Those Peruvians have chins on them like no other. Like, they might have tougher chins than Mexicans. Every single time I see a Peruvian fight, whether it's in MMA or boxing, they seem to just eat punches like they're starving. It's ridiculous. Rufy landed like at least 5 to 10 shots in that fight that should have put any man out on the planet. It probably could have put some heavyweights out, the shots that he was landing. The one hook that he hit when he was like fully turned over and then the hook came, that was beautiful. That looked so slick. And man, yeah, Latop just coming forward. Heavy volume. I think he landed like 10 times the amount of strikes in that fight. Or at least he threw 10 times as many strikes. I think if Roofy wants to get guys out of there, he's going to have to put a little bit more volume on. He can't just be looking to wing one big shot at the guy. I know they're calling him like the Brazilian McGregor, the way he blades his stance and he's darting in and out, and he's got perfect defense with his footwork. And he looks for those one shots, those one clean knockout shots, but he's going to need to add some more volume into his game if he's going to break into the top 15 and do some work there, because you can't fight like that against the top guys in the division. If Latop can take you to a decision like that, with how, again, I don't want to crap on Latop because he fought brilliantly, but his striking's a little bit sloppy. And if you do that against a guy who's a little bit more high level, Roofy's got to work on his game a little bit. I know they were saying when he was walking out that he already looks like a world champion, but he's got to add a couple things. He's got to get some more volume out there. He's got to work on that jab a bit. But fantastic performance. I actually thought that he won all 3 rounds, but I can see how some people would give that 3rd round to Latop. Then we had the Viviane Araújo versus Karine Silva fight. This fight was fantastic. It was a really, really good women's fight. I know some people like to say, oh, the women's fight is a bathroom break fight, but sometimes they are the most entertaining fights of the night. If you look just the day previous, the Mike Tyson fight, right? The Katie Taylor-Amanda Serrano fight, that was the best fight on the entire card. In fact, it's probably the best boxing fight I've seen all year. So sometimes the women can put on fantastic fights, and I think they put on a fantastic fight in this one as well. Now, there wasn't the most knockdowns or cuts or whatever, and maybe it could have been a 5-round main event on a fight night, but I thought it was a very, very close fight. I actually had Silva winning 29-28, but I totally understand how Araújo won this fight. I'm not here to say that it was a robbery or anything like that. I think it was a coin flip fight. I actually would like to see more draws in the UFC, because I think when fights are this close, they should make it a draw. Like, if no fighter clearly lost, it's kind of hard to give them a loss. It's like, damn, now I have an L on my record, even though it was a very close fight. So I feel like this one could have been a draw, but it was a very close fight, and Viviane showed her veteran quality there. She's like 7 years older than Silva, but she really pulled out some veteran qualities there, just with the fakes and the shifts that she was doing with her shoulders, getting her faked out with the punches. I thought she put on a fantastic performance against Silva, and hopefully she gets another big fight after this. But, at 37, it's hard to see her making big waves in the division. I really thought Karine Silva was the next big thing at 125. Doesn't mean she still can't be. She's only 30, but yeah, we need to see another big bounce back fight from her. So then we get into the Bo Nickel Paul Craig fight, and obviously being a Bo Nickel fan, this was a little bit disappointing, but at the same time, I don't want to say overrated like the fans were chanting there at the end. This was a hard fight, man. Paul Craig was a lot bigger than Bo Nickel. It was a huge jump up in the rankings. To fight Paul Craig in your 7th pro fight is insane. Insane. Paul Craig has submitted former world champions, submitted them. And for Bo Nickel to go out there and to put it on Paul Craig like that. Now, he won every single round, in my opinion. Did he win them by landslides? No, he won them by a couple inches. I won't say by an inch, but by a couple inches. They were close rounds, man. Paul Craig is dangerous. He's pretty dangerous on the feet. Like, I know some people say, you can light Paul Craig up on the feet and knock him out. He's a little bit susceptible to that, but no, he's a good striker on the feet, and he's got a lot of length, and Bo Nickel's only been striking for 2 years. So for him to outstrike Paul Craig, a guy who's been doing MMA for so long, I think it was an impressive performance. And, for Bo Nickel to win a fight without shooting a takedown, I think that proves a lot. I think that proves that he has made big strides in his game, and I just can't wait to see what he does next. Now, with that performance and comparing that with what Chimaev just did to Whitaker, a year ago, maybe I would have said Bo Nickel could walk in there and beat Chimaev, but now, yeah, Chimaev's a little bit too violent, a little bit too dangerous, a little bit too strong, I think, for Bo. Bo needs to get in the weight room and start lifting some weights, because he's looking like he's losing some muscle mass. So I feel like he needs to build up, get nice and beefy, get strong, and just work on the boxing a little bit more, because his punches look good. He leads with overhands a little bit too heavily, and I understand it because you're a wrestler. You throw the overhand. If you miss it, you're right there for the takedown. But you can't be leading combinations with overhands. He's got to learn how to establish his jab, how to work his way to the inside with boxing footwork. It seems like he's darting in with more like a wrestling or almost like a karate style stance. He's like bladed and jumping in and out, almost like Conor McGregor at times. Not to compare Bo Nickal's striking to Conor McGregor at all, but just the way he jumps in and out. I think if he had a little bit more of a boxing approach, brought his legs a little bit more together, he's a wrestler. He's going to be able to stop the takedown regardless. But find ways to, work your angles, get off the center line when you're coming in, and learn to put combinations together. There's a reason why there's combinations in boxing and there's not as many combinations in wrestling. There still are combinations, but wrestling's a little bit more freestyle. You're a little bit more creative when you wrestle, whereas in boxing you can still be hyper creative. Obviously there's guys like Prince Hassim out there, but for the most part, if you're boxing, you want to stick to the traditional combos because they work. You don't want to start with overhands. They're big punches, they're easy to read, they take a long time to get to the target. You want to start with jabs. So I want to see Bo Nickal utilize his jab more, focus on the fundamentals of boxing, and get in the weight room because you got to get a lot bigger. Paul Craig looked way bigger than Bo Nickal, and somebody like Izzy, who's in this division, is bigger than Paul Craig. So Bo Nickal's got to get in the weight room, in my opinion. And then we had the co-main event. And man, this was one where I had Charles winning because I don't think you can bet against Charles Oliveira. Going into the fight, I was picking Charles by third round submission. I thought maybe he'd get it a little bit later this fight. But I was cheered for Michael Chandler, man. I wanted him to do it. He just has one of those stories where you just want him to do it. You want him to get that belt. But fantastic fight. I mean, Charles dominated in the first round. I think he dominated throughout the whole fight. Obviously, the round that everybody is talking about and sticks in our minds is that fifth round. Michael Chandler got close to finishing Oliveira. He really had him hurt. I thought he was about to do it. Charles Oliveira finds the back, mounts him on the back, gets the body triangle in, and to watch Michael Chandler slam him on his back, stand up again, and slam him again, that was really cool. I know Michael Chandler kind of knew at that point that he already lost the fight, but just to do that, and to do that in front of the president, that was a really cool moment. It would have been perfect if he did it 3 times. If he got up like a third time, I think maybe the judges almost would have given the fight to Chandler just for that. But no, Oliveira obviously won that fight. He was tremendous. He's a wet blanket once he gets onto you. It's hard to get him off. It's hard for anybody to get Charles Oliveira off of them. And his striking was it's cleaner. I said it in my prediction video. I'm not going to pretend that Michael Chandler has better striking than Oliveira. Oliveira has made leaps and bounds in his striking, and his Muay Thai is sharp. And Michael Chandler might have a power advantage, but he's almost small compared to Oliveira. And he wasn't landing the shots that he needed to in that fight. And it's sad to see because that's kind of the end of Michael Chandler now. I don't think we're ever going to see him fight for a belt. He's 38. It's going to be a long road back to the belt, and when you have Arman fighting Islam, and both of those guys have already beat Charles, and Charles beat you, it's a long way to get there. And I don't think Michael Chandler can beat Arman Sarukian, and I don't think Arman can beat Islam. So, I mean, maybe he can. The first fight was close. We'll talk about that fight when we break it down. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough to see for Chandler. He's one of those guys like Chael Sonnen. I always wanted to see him hold a belt. So, yeah. But good for Charles, man. He gets to go sit front row for Arman versus Islam. Both of those guys have already beaten him, so good luck, Charles. You're getting up there in age, too, so I think Islam wins that fight, and I think Islam beats Charles again, probably even quicker than last time. I think Islam is just hitting new heights. That Poirier fight really impressed me. I did not expect Islam to grow that much in his striking. The Muay Thai that he implemented against Dustin Poirier blew me away. I still go back and watch that fight and watch how he used the clinch and watch how he put his combinations together. And Islam, man, Islam might be the pound for pound best fighter on the planet right now. I mean, there's one guy. There's one guy who's above him. And we got to talk about him right now. So, John Jones versus Stipe Miocic for the heavyweight title. Man, this one. Being a John Jones fan for 15 years, I was so damn nervous for the whole month leading up to this fight and the week going into it, watching all of the interviews, watching all these MMA Guru and Tom Aspinall fans spam the duck emoji everywhere as if John Jones is ducking Aspinall, which is the craziest thing in the world. He was never scheduled to fight him. Now you can maybe say it if he doesn't take the fight against Aspinall, but up until the Stipe fight, you could not reasonably say with a working brain in your head that Jones was ducking Aspinall. That's just ridiculous propaganda to try to get that fight made. But I like it. I like it. I think that fight could still get made, and I want to see that fight as a John Jones fan. I think after that Stipe performance, I think he could mop the floor with Tom Aspinall. I think he mops the floor with every single person alive. I really thought this was going to be the hardest test in John Jones's career. I thought we were going to see a Dominic Reyes type fight, maybe with multiple knockdowns for Stipe. I thought this was going to be a drag him out fight. I was not one of those people who was looking at Stipe's age and going, dude, he's 42. Why are we fighting senior citizens? There's a difference between 42 and 58. Okay, Mike Tyson was a 58-year-old senior citizen. Stipe was a deadly man last night. Stipe landed some combinations there that if those landed clean, he could have put John Jones out. There were some scary combinations, and he looked fast. I don't believe Daniel Cormier. I think Stipe looked fast. He looked sharp. He looked prepared. He was mean all week. His mentality was perfect. He looked ready to win. Randy Couture won the heavyweight belt at 45 years old. 45, 3 years older than Stipe is now, and he defended it. So never tell me that people are too old to win the heavyweight belt. The primes in UFC are very different. Your prime when you're at flyweight and your prime when you're at heavyweight are very, very different. Your speed develops a lot quicker than your power does, and I was not counting Stipe out at all. I thought going into this was the most dangerous fight for Jones. First round was the most dominant John Jones round I've seen in years. He starts out with these teeps to the body, these front kicks right to the midsection that were brutal. That is way worse than taking any body punch. Those were brutal kicks. The first one he hit on Stipe, you saw Stipe react to it. He kind of grimaced a little bit, and he started throwing punches right at John Jones. He was like, damn, if I take a couple more of those, I am out of here. He felt it immediately. And then John Jones puts the pressure on him, gets this beautiful trip. He could do that to anybody at heavyweight. If he can do that to Stipe, if he can take down Daniel Cormier, he's taking down everybody at heavyweight. So Tom Aspinall fans out there, your boy's getting taken down if they fight, like 100%. The way he easily just threw Stipe on his back like that, and then Stipe could not get up. He couldn't even get to a knee. John Jones was all over him like a wet blanket, holding him down. He got to a perfect position, and those elbows were hell. Those elbows would knock out 99% of heavyweights. I think Stipe might be the only person on the planet, with the exception of maybe like Mark Hunt, who could actually take those elbows to the face. That was brutal. I honestly think if Tom Aspinall was underneath John Jones there, he would have been unconscious for sure. I can't say that like 100% because we haven't seen Aspinall's chin tested quite like that, but those elbows were horrifying. I can't believe Stipe's face didn't open up. I can't believe he didn't get cut. And I can't believe he was still conscious after the round. When he sat down in his corner after round one, he looked like he just got in a car accident and a semi-truck just hit him on the highway. He looked dazed. He looked completely out of it. He looked like he gave up after the first round. He looked like he had the 1,000-yard stare, and he was just like, man, I got to do this for 4 more rounds? Are you kidding me? I barely survived that round. So, most dominant round I've seen from John in so long. Those elbows. To do that to a heavyweight. To do that to the greatest heavyweight of all time. I don't care about the age. Even if Stipe was 36, he would have done the same thing. Brutal, man. Brutal. And then the next round, very close round, honestly. Very, very close second round. Not much action. Stipe is dangerous with his combinations. Dangerous. I do not blame John Jones for running away. And if you're one of the fans that are like, why is John Jones running away in the fight? Ali did that. Like most boxers will do that. If a guy's going crazy and he's got a lot of power, you run away from the guy. That's the smart thing to do. You run away, you reset, and you re-engage. It's not like John Jones was just running in circles the whole time. He was still fighting the guy, but you're not going to stand there if a guy with that much power and 15 knockouts at heavyweight is throwing leather at your face. You get out of there. So I don't blame John for that. He's done that in every single fight. It's a smart tactic. It's something I would use. It's something any smart fighter would do. You run away when guys are, throwing blitzes like that. So can he do the same against Tom Aspinall? I don't know. Tom Aspinall's quicker. He's got more energy. He's got more power. That's what's scary to me, is if John Jones is running away like that, Tom will keep running after you. He won't stop running. He's not going to stop like Stipe and reset. He's going to keep running after you with punches. So Jones won't be able to do that. He's going to have to turn around and take him down. So that's like a big thing for me in the Tom Aspinall fight that scares me for John Jones, is like, you can't do that running away from punches thing with Tom Aspinall. He's too big. He's too fast. He will track you down. So, I thought John fought a very smart second round, still teeping that body, beating it up. If you've never had that done to you, you have no idea how it feels. Like, you think you know how it feels, you have no idea how that feels. To have the ball, like the front knuckles, the inside knuckles of somebody's foot jab through your rib cage, it does more than knock the air out of you. It feels horrible. It feels like your rib or your lung is getting punctured by ribs sometimes. It's an egregious feeling. So, and then in that third round, John Jones finds that kick, the beautiful spinning back kick. He's done it throughout his career. He hit one on Vitor Belfort that was beautiful. He's had a lot of those throughout his career, and the way he hit that was absolutely gorgeous. It's gorgeous. It's one of the best spinning back kicks I've ever seen. It's like that one, the Max Holloway one, the end of the first round against Justin Gaethje. There's a couple that I watch, and I'm like, that kick. There's a reason why people watch those Joe Rogan highlights of him hitting that kick on the bag, and they go, holy, that's terrifying. Joe Rogan's like 5'9". John Jones is 7 inches taller than him with a lot more power. That kick, man, I can only imagine what it's like to get hit with that kick. I am absolutely certain that Stipe went immediately to the hospital, and he had probably one, if not multiple, broken ribs from that. And a broken rib is probably the worst injury you can feel on the planet. You can't sleep. You can't turn over. It feels like your lungs getting punctured. Everywhere you move, it feels horrible. A broken rib is really one of the worst injuries you can have, just pain-wise, not like, blowing a knee apart's probably worse, like longevity-wise, but pain-wise, there's not much worse than breaking a rib. So I understand why Stipe went down immediately and why John was able to finish it that quick. That was one of the most deadly kicks I've ever seen in my life. If John hit that on Aspinall, if John hit that on Derek Lewis or DC or somebody with a big tummy, everybody's going down to that. Every single person is falling to that kick. That kick was brutal. It was pinpoint accurate. The technique was gorgeous. And it was one of the greatest finishes in John Jones' career. This guy rises to the occasion. When he faces the big names, he rises up. When he faces Dominic Reyes, when he faces, OSP, when he faces Gustafsson for the first time, he doesn't rise to the occasion. He kind of fights to the level of his opponent, and that's where he has those close fights. So when it comes to Aspinall, I think he's not going to make the mistake of treating him like Reyes and saying, oh, he just has a right hand and this kid's up and coming. I've already done this before. I think he's going to treat it seriously, and I think he's going to find ways to beat Aspinall, because when it comes to fight IQ, when it comes to computers, John Jones has the best fight computer in the game, in the history of all combat sports, really. So I know I like Tom. I'm not one of the guys who just absolutely hates Tom because he's been bashing my favorite fighter of all time. I think he's a really good fighter, and I want him to become the heavyweight GOAT. I think he has a pretty clear path to doing that. And I would love to see him fight John Jones. But as a John fan, I have to put myself in John's shoes and go, if I was John Jones right now, would I fight a guy who's 7 years younger than me, 25 pounds heavier than me, a lot faster, a lot more knockout power? Do I want to put my belts on the line? Do I want to put my legacy on the line? Do I want to put my zero on the line against that? I wouldn't. In my humble opinion, if I was in John's shoes, I would retire. I honestly would. I wouldn't even consider it. The fact that John is even considering it shows how much of a badass he is. The fact that he's even considering that fight is pretty stellar. For me, I would retire. I'd be like, I have everything. Nobody's ever topping my accolades. I just beat the heavyweight GOAT. I beat the best light heavyweight fighter under me, Daniel Cormier. Like, I have the most title defenses. I have the most everything. Like, I've already won the game, and I'm undefeated. You know, I know there's a one there, but we all know that Matt Hamill lost. And I wouldn't take the fight. I wouldn't even take the Pereira fight. I think that fight's scary too. So I think the fact that John is considering both, and the fact that he's saying, I'll take the Tom fight if they pay me, I would prefer the Pereira fight, because it's another champion on my resume. I get to 10 champions defeated. Right now I have 9. Beating Aspinall doesn't add to that. Beating Pereira does. Then I would have 10 champions on my resume. It would be an unbeatable resume. So I totally understand why he would prefer Alex. And Alex is an easier fight. John Jones won't say that, but with the age, with the size, with the wrestling, Alex Pereira is definitely an easier fight than Tom Aspinall. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like he's not, but I have to put myself in John's shoes, and I feel like a lot of people aren't doing that. A lot of people are just being stubborn fans, and they want to see John Jones knocked out, which I get it. I totally get it, but man, appreciate greatness while it's here. You know, there's a lot of people who were bashing Mike Tyson and hating on Mike Tyson throughout his entire career, wishing for him to get knocked out. And then when he finally lost to, you know, Buster and eventually Holyfield, you know, people were laughing at him. They were putting him down. And those same people now are looking back going, damn, what an amazing career that guy had. Look at how much he grew. You know, he was a bad person. He went to jail and, you know, started taking mushrooms, started a podcast, and it seems like he's turned his life around. I don't think that's out of the cards for John Jones either. I think John Jones, you know, I think he's grown a lot from where he's come. I'm somebody who's watched his entire career since he started, and I think he's grown a lot, and I'm feel amazing. It's such a pleasure to be able to have watched his career all the way through. It's a level of greatness I don't know if I'll ever witness again. So I'm happy to watch it live. Watching these fights live, they're so special. To watch that greatness put on display, it's a beautiful thing to watch. It's like I said, it's like watching Tyson or Ali in his prime. You don't want to squander that. You want to bask in that greatness, because once it's gone, it's gone. You know, John Jones, once he retires, he's never coming back, and we're never going to see an athlete like that again. I guarantee you that. We'll see other greatness. We'll see other greats come in the sport, but what John Jones is doing right now is pretty freaking special. In just not even combat sports, in the realm of sports entirely. It's pretty damn special. So what an amazing night of fights. I had an awesome time. I'm so happy John won. Obviously, like I've said multiple times now, he's my favorite fighter of all time. So really cool night of fights. I want to hear from you guys, though. Let me know down in the comments. Who do you guys want to see John Jones fight next? Do you guys want to see the Tom Aspinall fight? Do you prefer the Pereira fight? Do you want to see maybe Pereira versus Tom and just, you know, whatever with Jones? He can retire. And what do you guys want to see with Oliveira? Do you think he actually has a chance against Arman or Islam? I honestly don't think he does, but maybe you guys are bigger Oliveira fans than me, and you guys can make a good case for him. But let me know down in the comments your guys' thoughts on the fights. Do a little bit of matchmaking down there, and I love hearing from you guys. So thank you guys so much for watching. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends. It helps boost this channel and the algorithm. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.